Hello everyone, I'm actually filming a video. I'm very proud of myself for it. I've actually filmed several videos that haven't been posted for various reasons because I wasn't happy about the video and basically what I talked about in them, but today I want to do a review of Season 3, Episode 11 of Shadowhunters, so the Lost Souls episode, and this episode is the start of Season 3B, so the second half of Season 3, and the last set of episodes for Shadowhunters. I haven't reviewed them yet, and I really want to, usual, or old usual at least. Some of them will be typed up on my blog instead of being video reviews, but this one I'm going to make a video for. Of course, I've seen this episode multiple times at this point. I've seen the entire series multiple times since I first saw this episode, so I know everything that happens after this episode, but I'm going to try to avoid spoilers during the video. Jace is in a really bad place at the start of this episode. Clary wakes up with Jonathan, which is probably the most terrifying thing to wake up to. And I forgot almost that this is the first time we see Jonathan's real face. Jonathan getting his real face back makes sense, and logically it makes sense with the story, but at the same time having a completely new actor for a character is kind of jarring. So I'm used to it now, but I remember the first time I watched this episode, having the new Jonathan was just really weird, and I kind of had a hard time wrapping my mind around it, but that's not a problem anymore. Watching it now, I was used to this version of Jonathan and had no problem while watching the episode. The scene where Magnus is trying to do his eyeliner without magic and Alec tells him that he doesn't need makeup is probably one of the cutest little moments. Even now, so long after this episode first aired, I still think that it's probably one of the cutest short little moments in the series, possibly. I love that moment. I also absolutely love when Katarina and Madsy show up right after that, and the way Alec and Madsy interact with each other is so adorable, and I love it so much. Maya also comes back in this episode after being gone for a while, and I have very complicated maybe feelings about this. Izzy does say in the episode people process things in different ways, but it seems Maya gets a lot of criticism for not being there when Clary died, not being there to support Simon and whatever. She couldn't have possibly known that Clary was going to die, she can't predict the future. We have the first mentions of downworlders being tortured at the guard in this episode, and Izzy immediately takes the Seelie seriously and wants to talk to the Clave about it, which I think is great. A+ from Izzy for taking the Seelie seriously when he says that. And it is very frustrating to watch Gia immediately dismiss the fact that there could ever be torture at the guard because it's the Clave. That's obviously very frustrating to watch when we have seen time and time again over the show that the Clave is not necessarily that great towards downworlders despite what they claim and things. I'm sorry about the tow truck outside my apartment. I can't do anything about it. But we do get a clip at the end of this episode of a Seelie being tortured, so we know that there's truth to it, even though he says it's not the guard, so we know it's not the guard. Obviously I know how this plays out, so I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't remember exactly what I thought at the time, the first time I watched this episode. I definitely believe there was torture happening. I don't remember what my speculation was at first necessarily. There's a scene between Izzy and Jace that I both really like and dislike at the same time for different reasons. I really like that we get something like that between Jace and Izzy because they are supposed to be brother and sister, but we don't see their relationship that often. I feel like there haven't been that many scenes just between Jace and Izzy. Like, usually there are other characters there, especially Alec, and I feel like their kind of sibling relationship usually centers more around on, like, either Alec and Jace's relationship as parabatai or Izzy and Alec's relationship as brother and sister, and we really don't get that much of Izzy and Jace together unless the focus is all three of them. It's never just Izzy and Jace. So I liked that we had such like an emotional scene for Jace that was with Izzy instead of like with Alec, even though there's other criticism to be made about how the parabatai thing is handled in the show, but like I'm glad we got a scene between Izzy and Jace. But one thing that kind of bothers me is that Shadowhunters has this like habit of like making the characters make suicidal statements and then not really following through on that much. This happened in season 2 where Alec, like, it's pretty blatant that Alec is suicidal, and then it's just kind of dropped and nothing happens. And I've complained about that before, I think, in my review of those episodes. So seeing Jace express kind of suicidal thoughts, at the very least, like very, very depressed, like something is definitely not right thoughts in the show, is immediately I get kind of nervous because I feel like the show's not going to follow through on it. And like Izzy's encouraging and things like that, but like at the same time, scenes like this just really reinforce for me how much therapy needs to be a bigger thing in like among the clave and at the institutes. Like there should definitely be at least one, probably more than one, like therapist working at the institute and like every institute. Like that seems like it should be a requirement. On a related note, there is also a scene between Jace and Alec in this episode, which I think is like even more blatant about the fact that Jace might be suicidal. And like Alec kind of tells him off for not talking to them, which is very ironic because of everything I just mentioned about Alec in season 2. Iris returns in this episode. She wants to kidnap Madsy, which makes sense. It definitely makes sense that if she got out of the guard, one of the things she would try to do is kidnap Madsy. At the same time, it's definitely everything with Iris in this episode is mostly just to like magnify the fact that Magnus doesn't have magic. Like it's definitely more about that than like Iris and Madsy and things, because Magnus gets captured, he can't like break out, he doesn't have magic, the others have to rescue him. And I definitely understand from a character standpoint why that would be very difficult for Magnus, considering like his life, things he's been through, and like not having someone, like he needed to save himself in the past and has never really had someone else do that. So I completely understand everything Magnus is feeling in this episode, and I think that was handled very well. I think that it made a lot of sense for his character. Although I also laugh whenever I watch the scene where they're like at that what's supposed to be a magic shop, I think, and like Iris pops out of nowhere through a portal and like immediately takes out Alec and Izzy, and it kind of cracks me up because they're supposed to be two of the best shadow hunters in New York, and they just immediately get taken out. We get to see Raphael again. Simon goes to talk to him in Detroit, and I think it was good to have another scene between them, because I feel like their relationship with each other is important in a lot of ways on the show, so I liked getting to see them together again. Raphael also brings up the legend of possibly the oldest vampire in the world, who apparently lives in the sewers of New York City. One of those situations where I don't really remember what I thought about this the first time I watched that, because this is not in the books. Like, this is something that they did completely on their own on the show. It's not in the books at all. So I don't think I had any like speculation really about how this was going to go, and I'm going to avoid saying much about it like right now, because I do know what happens with that. The episode ends with Clary trying to stab Jonathan and then realizing that anything that hurts him also hurts her. And this remains like one of the most difficult scenes possibly in all of Shadowhunters for me to watch. Like, I have a blood phobia, and it's gotten better over the years with like movies and TV and things. There are more things that I can watch and I'm not really affected. But sometimes, especially like depending on the amount of blood, but not just the amount of blood, but like what's actually happening in the scene, sometimes it's much worse than others. And watching Clary and Jonathan both like choke on the blood, I cannot watch that scene. Like, I rewatched this episode before filming this review, and like I have to just turn away. Like, I don't want to listen to it because you can hear her choking, and I think that that is also one of the big things that really gets me in the scene, is the fact that you can hear it. And like, oh god, I just like, I hate that scene purely because I cannot watch it. It's very, very difficult for me to watch it. But obviously it gives you an idea of what the stakes are, because they need to take out Jonathan, but they can't, because if they hurt him, they will hurt Clary. And again, I know how that ends, so I will hopefully review 312 soon and talk more about what happens next. But I think that that covers everything for episode 311. I have no idea how long I've been talking, but I'm really thirsty, so I'm gonna go drink more water, and I will see you guys later. Bye.